Happy February, everyone. Last year around this time, me and Chris kept making jokes about the fact that it was January 35th and that January went on forever, and reality, March was the month that really seemed to drag. It seemed like it. Here to say Happy February. It's the worst month of the year. This is my least favorite month. My least favorite holiday. Yeah, I really absolutely hate this month. And currently in the middle of winter with some natural glaciers behind me, because you all know I'm from the snow capital of the world. Actually, those aren't glaciers. Those are snow that has been plowed at the exact same location where me and Chris first revealed our faces about almost 2 years ago for the March 2019 update video. So for this update video, I'm pretty much here to tell you that if you've been paying attention, in January, I did the annual New Year's video. I traveled to Conway, New Hampshire to chase the 7470 on a new take on the Steam in the Snow because the Mass Bay Rail Enthusiast Group canceled the annual Steam in the Snow this year, which was a bummer. And I also went to Strasburg, PA again, to this time, really I didn't know which engine I was going to get. I assumed it was either going to be 90 or 89, and I was pretty satisfied with the fact it was 89, and that was also my first 4K video. While we've shot with 4K videos before, because my main camera only shoots in 1080p, and the editing software I had pretty much only shot in 1080p, and because I'm using my old camera currently, because when this was recorded, the 4K camera hadn't come in yet, pretty much we had our first 4K video, and I can't wait to shoot more in 4K. It was long needed. We also released our Best of Railfanning 2020 edition. This time it was 3 parts. There was a lot of great footage. So that being said, for the February update, I don't really know what this month holds. There's one adventure I'd kind of like to go on. If that adventure happens, great. I'm sure a few of you might even already know what it is. I am trying to keep a little bit more steam during the winter months because of the fact I don't know what is going to happen throughout the course of this year. In fact, if anything, that's what 2020 taught us. So I am trying to go on at least one Steam adventure a month. You've heard me say it 1,000 different times, but I'm probably not going to ever go on as many adventures as what I did in 2019. But hey, there's still going to be some great content this year, a lot of stuff to look forward to, a lot of stuff nearby, and you know, I really can't wait to show you all. There's a tentative list, but nothing really is firm. If you also have been living underneath a rock and don't know, the Western Maryland just recently fired up the 1309 again and actually ran it under its own power for the first time in 64 years. While we are not affiliated at all with the railroad, I would flat out ask you to please donate so we could see this beast steam this year. I am really hyped for it. It's been 7 years in the making. I actually remember when they bought the locomotive and they said 734 was going out of service. Of course, I was disappointed. And after I recorded this video, the Reading 2102 was fired up for the first time in 29 years. The last time 2102 felt a fire in its grate was literally a week after I was born, a week or two born. I also forgot to mention in here that I got my first dose of the COVID vaccine in January. So, trying to keep in a theme instead of just rambling on about random ideas and stuff and not really knowing what's going on, I decided to redo a video we did back in 2018, I believe. Yeah, it was definitely 2018 because Matt was with us. And this is going to be my proper top 5 favorite steam locomotives. So I'm going to say I definitely want to hear your top 5 favorite steam locomotives. The one in 2018 was rushed. I really didn't put any effort into it, and well, Chris and Matt really were the only ones that knew the locomotives they liked. This time, this is going to be my personal top 5 all-time favorite, and we're going to pretty much ignore the video from 2018 didn't exist. Another thing about this top 5 video, I did not do this because people kept requesting me to do it. I got so many personal messages and all that fun stuff to do it. I just felt like it was time to do another top 5. I'm doing this on my own. Maybe we will see other top 5 vlog videos in the future. I do actually enjoy doing these, but let's keep the comments civil. I apologize if I don't include your favorite locomotives. This is my top favorite steam locomotives. So starting at number 5, this probably shouldn't shock anyone. Actually, this list probably isn't going to really shock anyone if you really know me. My number 5 favorite steam locomotive would have to be the Reading and Northern 425. Now, this made the list in 2018 as favorite locomotives I'd seen, but after the past few years, after all the times I've went to go and seen her, I have seen her She has probably been one of the most constant steam locomotives I've seen consistently. I saw her in 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. The only other two locomotives I could say I saw on a consistent basis like that was 765 and 1225. The Reading and Northern 425, hands down, was that one locomotive. When I initially saw a picture of it, I thought it was ugly because of the headlights. Now, the first time I even saw a picture of the 425, I thought it was ugly. If you know me, I love that perfect centered headlight look, or I love the headlight on top of the smoke box door, but it kind of being in the middle there and high kind of annoys me. But the first time I saw 425, I was just impressed with how loud it was. The second time, it was somehow even louder than the first time. So hearing it sound like it was almost about to explode on Hometown Hill was definitely a highlight in 2018. In 2019, however, though, going to see it as many times as what I did on the Mountaintop Excursion, the Fall Foliage Excursion, Schuylkill Burrow Days, and the Christmas Excursions, and even in the Gorge, you really just don't appreciate the thing until you go out and see it. It runs on one of the most beautiful lines in North America. Hell, I think the Fall Foliage trips are the modern day New River Gorge trips of the 80s and the early 90s. I know a lot of people like to say that about Steam in the Valley because it features, you know, the main steam star from that, but to me, 425 on the Fall Foliage are those trips. It's just a neat little engine, and when you look at it and you really hear the stack on that thing, there is a reason it is noted as the loudest operational steam locomotive. My number 4 would have to be the Père Marquette 1225 tied with the Nickel Plate Road 765. And yes, I am going to tie these two together. I like the 1225 a lot more than the 765. In the early days of our channel, they were pretty much our main big steam stars. We saw them as much as we possibly could. 2017, we pretty much focused on 1225. That year saw her 3 times. And in 2018, we focused on both of them evenly. So that being said, the 1225 was the basis for the real Polar Express. And that hands down has a little bit of childhood nostalgia. I actually remember it and 765 in a video I had as a kid at the Huntington National NRHS convention. And obviously, without the flying number boards, that's really my favorite look at the 1225. The 1225 also has a bark that I would say rivals the 425, although at times, as a friend of mine pointed it out, 425 stack talk pretty much deafens the whistle at times, depending which whistle is on top of the locomotive. The 1225, there's just something cool about it. The line it runs on, you know, it's not the most scenic line, but there's just something neat about it. I also love the whistle on the locomotive. It's got a very unique, rough sound. 765, I did not like as a kid. I did not like it because of the fact it had flying number boards. I did not like it because of the fact it had a Mars light. Both of those things really grew on me over the years, and I will say because of it, I have a little bit more of an appreciation for flying number boards. That being said, though, the 765 is pretty much, in my opinion, is as cool as the 1225. It's got more of a clean appearance. It's more of like someone described it to me. It is the Cadillac of steam locomotives. But I'm sure someone's going to dispute that. But it's neat as well too. I love the fact that I've seen it go at about 70 miles an hour, and then I've seen it pull through the Cuyahoga Valley line, which is scenic, and it was pretty much the reason that this channel was started. It was the reason all of us pretty much exist, the reason I have gotten to photography and videography. So I honestly owe 765 a lot. My number 3 locomotive would have to be the Iowa Interstate 6988. Now, this was a locomotive I just found out about, I would say recently. A lot of these locomotives that I wanted to go chase and photograph for years were ones that I somehow remembered tied to my childhood. 6988 is only about 6 years older than me. It was built in 1985. I was born in 1991, not that any of you care. But it was built by the Detong Locomotive Works. It worked in China as a freight engine for most of its revenue service, and then it was purchased along with its sister 7081, and I cannot remember the original number of the 2008, which was owned by the R.J. Corman Group. 6988 and 7081 both went to the Iowa Interstate, and 2008 went to the R.J. Corman Group and ran in Kentucky, but that's not the point. The 6988 was Americanized in 2011, and the first time I ever saw a picture of it, I honestly thought it was the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum 610 with smoke deflectors, and I thought, when did that happen? And then I noticed the numbers, and I'm like, that's not 610. And then I also got looking at the locomotive, and I'm like, that is totally bigger than the 610. The first time I saw it, still have no idea how I pulled that off. I have no idea how I pulled off Menlo last year with no vacation time. I pretty much drove more than halfway out there to get 2 hours of sleep, to wake back up just to chase the thing. And yeah, the Mitchellville, Iowa trips. I will admit, I was hoping that the locomotive would have had the Illinois Central 3 chime on the locomotive, as that is one of the main things that drew me to the locomotive preparing for the chase for weeks. But the Southern 3 chime sounded quite okay. And the first time I saw it, there was just something neat about it. I love the Americanization of the locomotive. It was modified like 734 and 2716, and I'm all for locomotive modifications. And to me, over the course of time, it has just become one of my favorite steam locomotives. The way how it operates in a way does remind me of the fame of the Southern Railway excursion trips. The reason I say that is fire departments pretty much charter the train. It ferries to and from. When it ferries, it usually has a freight train unless it is not going that far away. And to me, it's just neat because typically it'll lead the ferry both directions depending where it's going. It's just an impressive engine. It's definitely one, it's got a unique bark to it. I don't know if that's because of the fact it was built in the 80s, but I made a lot of good memories chasing the engine, and I just love photographing it, and I love the look of it. My second favorite steam locomotive is the Western Maryland 734. So as I've said before, the 734 really kind of hits home for me nostalgia-wise. It was in my favorite train videotape as a kid, all about fast-moving trains. And it absolutely kills me to know the fact that once I realized how close it was, I never took the trek to see it before it went down for its 1472 day in 2016. Granted, this was pre me having an actual video camera. I would have probably filmed all my experiences with it on a cell phone. Yeah, you can cringe later. Or my point and still camera at the time. But I would have loved to have seen this thing in service. This locomotive is the reason why I love centered headlight locomotives. It's the reason why I love steamboat whistles. This locomotive just looked perfect to me in all about fast-moving trains. Even just watching it outside of that video, it had hands down possibly one of the most beautiful lines in the country. You had the famous Helmstedter's curve. You had many curves on that line. You had a tunnel, and the grade, from what I understand, was steep, and the 280 put on a great show. Granted, towards the end, it obviously needed some work, and it wasn't strong enough to haul certain trips up the mountain without diesel assistance, which is why the 1309 was considered. But it still, in my place, is one of my favorite locomotives. And I'm definitely hopeful maybe someday we will see a return of 734. I can't remember where the source was I saw that they were evaluating the locomotive. It was over the summer. Let's be real, 2020 was a haze, and I apologize if that source is wrong, and I'm not trying to spread information. I'm just talking about my favorite steam locomotives. And my number one steam locomotive shouldn't shock anyone. If it shocks you, then you really don't know me. You haven't paid attention to my channel, or you've never paid attention to my Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook posts. My favorite steam locomotive of all time, and it has been my favorite steam locomotive since I was a kid, the Union Pacific 844, or when I was a kid, the 8444. Now, my favorite TV show as a kid was Shining Time Station. It's what introduced Thomas to America. You've heard me talk about it 1,000 different times. I absolutely love the show. I love the fact that they had real-life human characters. I love the fact that they mixed Thomas in with that. And I love the fact that they did sequences about trains. That, to me, was hands down the coolest part about Shining Time Station. That's why rail fans like myself can finally remember Shining Time Station, and I honestly say most rail fans since 1984, one of the main reasons they like trains was because they liked Thomas as a kid. I'm not saying that's true for all of it, but I would honestly say a good probably 85% loved Thomas as a kid and are now out taking pictures of trains or watching trains like myself. The 844, though, I just remember watching it throughout so many programs over the year. And every time I saw it, the first thing I thought it was, that's the Shining Time Station engine. I've only ever seen the 844 once, and that was on the infamous 2018 Cheyenne Frontier Days excursion. And, well, yeah, I'm not really too satisfied with the video. I've definitely not hidden my true thoughts about that, and I'm not going to hide my true thoughts about that. It was garbage. Garbage. But that being said, I would someday love to redo it. The 844 in person, I have to hands down say that whistle is hands down one of the loudest whistles I've ever heard. And while the hype right now is all for Big Boy, when it's safe again, when Union Pacific is running its steam again, you can almost guarantee I will be out there chasing the 844. And I honest to God hope I have many chases over the course of my lifetime with the 844. So I am doing a quick overdub, and that's because I realized I didn't really talk about what I actually liked about the 844 when I talked about it being my favorite steam locomotive, because I kept going off about childhood nostalgia and about the fact I had it in so many videotapes as a kid. So that's what this overdub is for, and I don't know why I'm announcing the fact I'm doing this, but guess what? I'm doing it. One of the things I've always loved about the 844 through my whole life is the fact it has the smoke deflectors. It gives it a European sense. I mean, when you think about it, smoke deflectors were common in the American railroads. They weren't as common as what they were over in Europe. And you know, a few people may even jokingly say, well, what about the Mars light and the flying number board? You've said multiple different times you don't like Mars lights and flying number boards, and that is correct. I truthfully don't, but for some reason on the 844 it has never irritated me. The locomotive is a lot bigger, in my opinion, than what you see it on in video and pictures. Obviously, videos and pictures will never do anything justice, but like when you look at a photograph, sometimes you could be like, holy cow, that is massive, that isn't massive. Standing next to the 844's driving wheels, when I did get to see the locomotive in person, I couldn't get over how big they were, and actually scaling it down the few times I did actually get a shot of the 844 that wasn't a pacing shot. The locomotive is huge. That being said, that's my top 5 favorite steam locomotives. Comments below, let's not get uncivil because I didn't include your favorite steam locomotive. Anyhow, as a February update, stay tuned. Hopefully there'll be another steam adventure. Thank you guys for all the support. And one last thing I would like to mention that I didn't put in there. If you noticed, I've started putting ads on these videos. I apologize. I've been eligible for a while, and I put ads on these because it definitely helps fund the trips. It helps fund my hobby, and I thank you guys so much. Let's be civil in the comments. Hope you all have a great day.